Let's get to something some love and some are driven nuts by, and that's Nick Sirianni. So, there's a lot to do today, and good job by Paul George last night. He bangs in 9-3, Sixers win pretty convincingly. So nice job there. We'll get into that more as we move through the show. But let's start with Sirianni because, we've done a lot of different focused shows on various topics since the end of the Eagles season, but we hadn't done a deep dive yet on where we stand on Nick Sirianni. And so, floor is ours right now, but the floors can be yours throughout the course of the show. You got to call us at 215-592-9494. It's been a few weeks, obviously, since the end of the season. And I simply ask you this question. Where do you stand on Nick Sirianni? Where do you stand on Nick Sirianni? What level coach do you think he is? Do you believe in him? Do you want him here? Do you want him gone? Get on the record on Nick Sirianni today and what you think as an Eagles fan. We've seen a lot of twists and turns, a lot of coaches. 5 years into Nick Sirianni, what do you think we got here? 215-592-9494. It's not breaking news for anyone who listens to know, I'm a bigger believer in Sirianni than John. Let's get into it. John, you go first. Where you stand on Sirianni, what do you got? Then I'll react. Talk to us.
Well, I think we definitely have a problem. I don't know exactly how to cut up the blame pie on offense for this year, but as the head guy, he is the offensively minded coach. It has been Nick Sirianni's job for half a decade to teach this quarterback how to play his offense. And it doesn't seem like that's really gone over as well as I would have expected or imagined. So the question comes up, is it the teacher or is it the student? Well, I don't know, but I know that it's dysfunctional. I know that it doesn't look the way I want it to look. I know it's been 5 years that Nick has been coaching our quarterback. I know Nick has been coaching 23 years in his career,
college and
pro.
Yeah.
For 2 of those years, he coached DBs at Mount Union, and for 21 years, he's coached wide receivers, essentially. Like the offensive side of the ball, offensive quality control, offensive wide receiver coach. It bothers me a lot, and this is something that we sort of don't even talk about anymore, but once upon a time, we would try to run pick routes. We would try to run rub routes. We couldn't. I mean, we failed miserably
without penalties.
At running rub routes because we couldn't coach it properly. Honest, you remember this, right?
I remember it well.
It was.
He would complain, and we'd all say,
joke.
That was a penalty.
And we're looking at it like you can't tell them to do that. You can't tell them to run into the guy.
Yep.
This is our coach. They're our football expert of a coach. Why can't you teach our wide receivers to run hot routes and sight adjustments? You were the receiver yourself. I don't know. I've been asking now for what feels like 5 years, where are the hot routes, where are the sight adjustments? And I'm told, hey, they're in there. Well, we don't see them.
No, we don't see
and that's not the quarterback as much as it is the wide receivers. They need to run different routes depending on how many guys they're bringing. The quarterback needs to be dialed into. It's just this offense is not enough. And I'm hoping and waiting to see some evolution, but it doesn't feel like it's coming. It doesn't feel like it's evolving. This Eagles group is led by a wide receiver coach who doesn't feel that good at coaching up the wide receivers. I don't feel like Nick had a great grasp on what to do when the offense wasn't running and humming and working at its best. I remember a couple times Nick Sirianni saying, if I had answers, I would have fixed this a long time ago. That's what our head coach said. He told us this. I think that's ill-advised, Nick. I'm sorry. And I'm concerned about so many things. I'm concerned that it took 4 days to hire Kellen Moore the last time. I'm concerned that we're sitting at 2 weeks now, and it feels like teams are looking, coaches are looking at the way Nick, and I don't know. I don't know exactly the way they perceive all of this, but I worry that they come in here to Philadelphia and they say, well, wait, is Nick not going to be in this meeting? Am I not discussing my new job with the head coach? I don't know how impactful Nick's role is in this interview process.
Right. A lot of us think it's not that impactful.
I feel relatively certain that it's not what he wants.
Yep.
I feel relatively certain that these coaches coming in from the outside are saying, wait a second, I don't like the way that's set up. It feels like that's what we're dealing with.
Feels
here.
wonky.
Yeah, so I feel like when it's all said and done, you can say that this team missed on the head coach, but that the roster overcame, and here we sit. You got a real dilemma where the coach has a record that is astronomically good,
right?
But I don't know that he's the best coach for the job, but he's going to have the job.
Well, he is. All right, so look, a lot of ways to go. Obviously, John touched on a ton of things. There's so many elements to all this 5 years into Nick. We ask you at 215-592-9494 where you stand on him. Look, here's where I'm at. I'm going to stick by the term great coach. I believe it. I think he's a great coach. Now, do I feel shakier than I did 3-4 months ago? Of course. It was a bad end of the season, and it was bad offense. And he has his hands in both of them. And so, obviously, he's got to get dinged considerably, given the reality of both of them. But on the whole, 5 years in, I'll stand by great coach. I think there's about 10 really good coaches in pro football. I think he's one of them. They come from different shapes and sizes, offense, defense, guy like Vrabel who played. There's all sorts of different types. I think he's really good. Look, the question has always been, and it's been a tough thing to answer, both regarding him and Jalen Hurts. The question on both of them has always been, how much do they benefit from Howie's roster? And then how much is their own, averageness, goodness, or greatness? And it's tricky. I mean, it just is. It's just a tricky thing to answer. I tend to think that Sirianni is excellent independent of the roster, but we also know, of course, he's benefited from the roster. I mean, he's had a tremendous advantage with that roster. Look, typically, I think, and again, I'm going to use the word typically, because this does not all apply to 2025. Typically, I think he fosters a football team that is tough, plays hard, stays healthy, and obviously wins an awful lot. I think he's an excellent game day manager.
I think whether they're tough or not, they're that when they arrive here in Philadelphia. I think they are the person that is scouted.
There's some of that. There's some of that for sure.
I think that's the front office saying, we love the way this guy plays football.
There's some
we
of that.
love his
Sure.
attitude. It's not Nick.
I think some of it is. But look, I get it.
I don't think Nick has that much to do with the, acquiring the guys.
I got you. Look, Landon Dickerson and Jalen Hurts walked into Philadelphia's tough guys. Dallas Goedert walked into Philadelphia's tough guys. But I do think Sirianni fosters it. I think he's very good on attention to detail.
I think he's great at holding guys accountable. That part is a huge deal. And Zach Ertz basically told us as a fan base, like, he'd never seen anything like this.
Yeah, but I think Sirianni slipped on that this year. That's a disappointment to me on two fronts. One, the Jalen running thing. Like, dude, I don't know, man. Nick did not get the best out of Jalen this season. Did not. And part of that is he couldn't get him to run. And the other thing is he didn't get A.J. to try his hardest. He did not get A.J. Brown to buy in. One of the most important jobs for a coach is to get your star players to buy in. And he could not wrangle AJ this year. He just couldn't. Now,
I'd say that's a massive knock against.
It is. Now, I'm not saying that's easy because I've seen enough from all sorts of coaches to know sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't get through to a guy, especially after a certain period of time. But that is a knock on Sirianni. He just couldn't get him. Look, to me, there's a couple drawbacks beyond that. There's been 2 seasons of big disappointment. Big disappointment. Underachievement.
You trust him building a coaching staff?
No.
Not at all.
No, but I trust him. But I trust him a lot of other ways.
These coaches who are looking from the outside, like that stuff matters.
Look, it does. Look, he's not an offensive guru. There's been 2 seasons, and this one wasn't as bad as 2023, but there's been 2 seasons of big underachievements. I think he's too conservative at times. Now, I'm not like John where I bash him for the uber conservativeness and the end of the halves. I actually think he's managing what he's got, both with Jalen and the offense, and I think he generally does a pretty good job with that.
It's too passive.
Well,
way too passive.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
They're missing opportunities every single game.
Sometimes. I think getting to the line was a disaster this year, and even if it was on Petullo, then that's on Sirianni, because after 3 weeks it's unacceptable, let alone 17 weeks. You can't constantly get to the line when the clock's ticking down. I mean, if something's out of whack, then frickin' fix it. So, there are drawbacks. But on the whole, I still net out thinking Sirianni, and again, this term I'm going to use, great. I think he's a great coach. But you tell us, 215-592.
His record is great.
His record is great.
His record is great.
I understand. I get it. Barry Switzer had a great record there for a few years. I didn't think he was a great coach at the time. Sometimes it's truly the talent. Sometimes it's a blend of the talent and the coach. Look, you guys tell us, 215-592-9494. Sirianni's obviously going to be entering year 6. We don't know who his coordinator is going to be. We know the search has been ridiculous. We also know he's been in the playoffs 5 times in 5 years, 2 Super Bowls, and won 1. Where do you stand on Nick?